Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inland Empire Coaches Talk. Today I am with the head baseball coach from King High School, Steve. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So tell the folks at home a little bit about your background coming to King from North and the whole rigmarole of Riverside Baseball.
Yeah, so man, I'm Riverside born and raised. I grew up maybe like 5 minutes from here, from downtown Riverside. I went to Fremont Elementary School and RUSD. I went to Gage Middle School. I went to Arlington High School and played baseball there. I was lucky enough to have a nice little high school baseball career, and I got a baseball scholarship to play at UC Riverside. I played at UCR for 4 years, and then after my 4 years were up, I signed a free agent deal with the Chicago White Sox. I was a left-handed pitcher. I pitched for 3 years in the White Sox system. The White Sox finally realized that I really wasn't very good, and one day said, "You know what? It's time for you to go home." And I started coaching right away. My first coaching job was at Arlington High School, my alma mater, and I was the varsity pitching coach there for 3 years. My first teaching job, full-time teaching job, was in coaching was at Hemet, at West Valley High School in Hemet, with a good friend of mine, Justin Solis, who took over that program. I had gotten married that year, and I was driving from Riverside all the way out to Hemet, and that was a nice little drive. And one day I told my wife, I was like, "Look, I need to come try and get closer to home." And luckily, at the end of the year, the North baseball job opened up, and I kind of put my name in the hat. And they didn't have any teaching positions available at that time, so I thought, I was going to go back to West Valley. And about 2-3 weeks before the start of the school year, I got a call from Jim McNamara, who was our athletic director at the time, and he said, "Hey, are you still interested?" And we were able to create a teaching position for you, and the rest was history. I was at the head coach at North for 10 years. Kind of built that program from being a team that needed a little turnaround. And in 5 years, we turned into a CF champion. We won a Division I title at Dodger Stadium over Esperanza. And then the very next year, we were probably even better in 2012. And we had some good clubs going in. We played in the Boris in 2016. And then my wife and I had our third child in 2016. And my wife works at King also. And when the baseball job opened up at King and a teaching job, it was kind of that time for us to be on the same campus, and it was nice because now we're able to take all three kids to our King football games and basketball games, and we could carpool to work. So life became a lot easier for us, with the move up to King. And it's been good. I mean, I miss North every single day, but that transition to King is, it's been good. There's so much support up there, and, our school's great. The talent up there is really good. We got a constant influx of really talented kids, and it's been good. And then the side note is being in our league, the Big 8 is arguably one of the top leagues in Southern California, and it's good to go out and compete with some of the best coaches in the area, and so it's been really good, man. I'm happy.
Absolutely. Now it's interesting that you talk about the coaching journey that you've been on, because like talking with Jeff Steinberg yesterday, and how he bounced around from A.B. Miller, Santiago to Rancho Verde. Everyone thought, oh, you're going to finish your career at Rancho Verde, but now he's at Beaumont because it's closer to home.
Yep.
Where like you talk about how priorities change, even though you've had a lot of success at North, now to even go to a crosstown rivalry just for family purposes. Talk about a little bit the transition and the difference in cultures from North High School versus King High School.
Well, the first thing is North, the side of town that North is on is a little bit different than Orange Crest. We draw from, kids that are, quite honestly, just the neighborhoods are a little different, a little tougher. Orange Crest is obviously, a little more affluent area, and those kids have a little more given to them or afforded to them by their parents. Both very similar as far as baseball talent. At King, we might be a little deeper, I think, in our program. But as far as like the talent that we have, I mean, those kids at North were, just as good as the kids we have at King.
Absolutely.
But yes, I mean, you're right. Like, it was great at North. I was 10 minutes from home. It was awesome. But then, when the King job opened up, it was a chance for our family to kind of make life easier for us. Like my parents would pick up the kids from school and they drop them off at King, because we're both there and we're going to drive home together. And like I said, my wife and I, we carpool to work sometimes whenever we can, and we're at the same staff meetings, and it's cool. And it's convenient, but yet we're not so much like always together at school. You know, I mean, King's a very big school, and we have 2 lunches. So she has first lunch, I have second. Her class is way on the other side of campus. Mine's way by the baseball field. So even though we're on the same site and it's nice, it's not like we're constantly, seeing each other every single day. I'll go a couple weeks and not even see her around campus. But it's nice that when school's over and baseball practice is over and she's done in her classroom grading, that I just call her, hey, you ready? Let's go. Go home.
Well, it's nice that you can now kind of establish almost a small town Americana feel that, frankly, we lose in Southern California because everyone's just so spread out and there's so much to do all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you've had some great hometown coaching and also, obviously, professional coaching. What pieces would you say are the things that have stood out to you and become pillars in your coaching style?
Man, I think obviously the hard work and preparation. Gary Rungo at Arlington, he was a legendary coach in our area. It was all about organization, and everything was so time-oriented in what we did as far as our practice plans. So I've taken that and kind of put my own spin on it. Jack Smitherin, who was a Hall of Fame coach, was my head coach at UCR. For him, it was all about just competing and getting after it in a long season. I mean, as far as college baseball in terms. Long bus rides, man, and, just kind of being mentally focused every single pitch, every single at-bat, because at that level, everybody's really good, and if you're not focused, you're going to get beat. And then, Gary Adcock at CBU is a really good friend of mine. He actually recruited me to go to UC Riverside. He then left and did his own thing at UCLA and Purdue. He was my head coach in Alaska one summer. And for him, it was just about pitching and pitch selection and competing in the zone, and don't be afraid to command and compete on the field. And Doug Smith, at UC Riverside, was our hitting coach, and I hit it for a couple of years at UCR. And man, some of the drills and techniques that he did at UCR, we still use now, at King. Professionally, again, it was kind of just one of those things where you really learned how to just take care of your business. You know what I mean? Get to the field early every single day, get your early work in, get your work in after practice. And those are things that we stress for our kids at North and at King, that just because practice is over doesn't mean your practice is over. Like, if you need to get some extra swings, cage is open. If you need to take some extra ground balls, let's go. Grab my phone, go, and let's get going. So yeah, I've been able to take pieces of everything that I've learned from great coaches in our area, and then kind of pass that along to, players in our area now.
Now, you talk about the workload during practice and after practice. And you've obviously seen the steps of baseball. And it's always been interesting to me, the advent of travel ball and the workload that kids are going through now versus when you and I were coming up. How, because a high school season, you're talking about 40-something games. A D1 season, you're looking at 68, if not more if you go into postseason. Plus, you have summer ball for the Alaskan League, like you're talking about. And then professional baseball, 162. Talk about the workload, especially on arms for pitchers that are going through right now. Because, I'll do certain tournaments as a tournament director, and I'll see kids throwing 115, and they're 12 years old on a single weekend. Then they're trying to make them go out again 3 days later. I'm like, that workload was unheard of during my day.
Absolutely. It kind of changed as I kind of got older. I remember at Arlington, I would pitch and play the outfield every single game, every single practice. And we would just throw and throw and throw. And not that it was a negative thing, but it was kind of like the more that we threw, the stronger our arms got, you know what I mean? But then when you got to the summer, it was our kind of time to only throw 1 inning a game, or maybe 2 innings. But you're right, kids nowadays, they're going from their high school season or their youth travel ball, and they're going 5, 6, 7 innings every single time out, regardless if it's the spring or it's the summer, and even into the fall. So the workload has changed tremendously. But even in college, we had our training room, man. After I threw, I'd go to the training room, and we'd do our arm exercises, and we'd get stem and ice, and even in pro ball, man, it's just kind of the conditioning and the throwing programs that they put you through. But then when it's over is where it really took into effect, because the arm care programs there were just next level. And so those are things we try and stress. At our level now in high school, we just don't have the resources that you have in college and you have professionally. But it's so cutthroat now too, man. Like I feel sad for the kids almost, because they feel like if they're not playing, they're not being seen. If they're not being seen, they're not going to get a scholarship. If they're not playing every single day, they're not going to start, or they're not. You know what I mean? Like it's just constant for kids nowadays. And when we were growing up, it really wasn't like that. We played our high school season and then summer ball, and then
coming up, we played Little League, which is almost non-existent almost to this day. But so you talk about that you don't have the resources. Is there things that parents can do at home that will help? Because obviously you don't have 5 trainers on staff to help each pitcher and work through it. But is there resources? Like I know a lot of my friends work out with Romwad, so that way it's how to rehabilitate arms and how to work through exercises for fitness, but they're also very applicable for most sports.
Yeah. Nowadays there's so many facilities in our city that's really specialized in that. So I mean, they might leave practice and then they might head over to a place that does STEM or heat or whatever, and so they have resources off campus that parents can take advantage of. It costs money. You got to be able to afford it. But yeah, there's plenty of things they can go out now and get their work in. There's like I said, facilities popping up everywhere, and there's trainers all over the place now, and they're doing great things. And it's all about arm care and getting their bodies right, mental, food wise, like for nutrition. That we just didn't have. We didn't have access to that. We were coming up. So these kids definitely have a little more, afforded to them than.
It's not the Taco Bell and Mountain Dew diet. It's
no, not at all.
I mean, especially like you look back at, you think that you're invincible even when you're in high school and college, and oh no, I don't need. And now, like I look at like the wrist surgeries that I've had, or like the shoulder, and you're like, you can still feel it catching now. And you're like, I should have been a lot smarter about that when I was much younger.
Heck yeah, I threw BP to my son's little 10U group the other day, and man, I'm still feeling it. It's 3 or 4 days later. Like, when we were younger, you can go out and just throw every single day, but now, got to do some little icing when I get home.
Talk about the culture that you try to instill in the kids at King.
Mm-hmm. Well, for one thing, the one thing that I really want to come in and do is just emphasize organization and win everything. Like, we want to win tying our shoes, win BP, win pregame, and just compete, because if you can go out there and grind and have that confidence that you're going to be able to compete and win, then things can take care of itself. Mm-hmm. A big part of our culture is we're not afraid to play anybody. Don't get me wrong, we have some great teams and coaches in our area, but man, I want to hit the road and let's go out to Orange County and play Orange Lutheran and Mater Dei and J. Sarah and Harvard Westlake, and let's go. Like, it might affect us in the win column because we're going to lose a couple of games along the way, but let's go. Let's get after it. Because the one thing that I learned from Gary Rungo, that our culture there was, we cannot play anybody in our schedule that's not just as good or better than anybody in our league. So and our league is really good in the Big 8. So if we're going to play somebody, they've got to be just as good or better than Corona. Mm-hmm. They've got to be just as good or better than Norco. You know what I mean? Because if not, we're just, we're not preparing ourselves. So it's really just preparation, organization. Let's go out and win some baseball games.
And this might be just me getting on my soapbox a little bit. Like, Orange County, yes, they have the money. And some of the facilities, like you talk about J. Sarah and Mater Dei, are gorgeous facilities. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, from an umpire's perspective, they're actually, like, I remember doing CIF semifinals and quarterfinals and going out to Orange County, and they're like, oh, this person went in the 3rd round, and this person, I'm like, same thing that was said at Santiago. Corona just had a first rounder.
Yeah.
Gary puts out product every year from Norco. It's like, okay, and like the Inland Empire is just as stacked as Orange County is. Mm-hmm. We may just not have the same facilities. You don't have the OC varsity going out there and doing 20 films on it.
Yeah.
But Riverside's starting to come up because we're seeing a lot more football games, baseball games, putting on YouTube and putting on so families can watch at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely coming up. Man, there's so many great programs here, and all the way through San Bernardino. Yucaipa is really good. Summit's really come along. Esteban Valencia at Redlands done a tremendous job. Rev, and then you get into Riverside, and you got obviously with my North ties, I think North is really good. Poly's amazing. Clint Ball at Ramona has done a tremendous job with that program. And then you go on to the Corona area, Corona High, Norco. You got into Temecula. Holy cow! You got Vista Marietta, Great Oak won a D3 title a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So our area is loaded.
Yep.
It's definitely loaded. And being a Division I school and a Division I, pretty much Division I league, that we could stay local and do some things, but it's also nice to get out, and play some other schools.
Now, you and I have talked off camera several times about your idea of bringing back the Riverside League. Mm-hmm. And now, obviously, the elephant in the room is coronavirus, or COVID-19 officially. So talk about that idea for a little bit of how you think that would work if we tried to bring back the Riverside League.
Yeah. Well, I've had this dream of bringing back the Riverside League for a few years now. Even when I was at North, because at North we opened the Big Eight. We were part of that initial Big Eight class. Then we left the Big Eight, and then I went to King, and we were back in the Big Eight. But the longer I've been around, I cherish those rivalries a little more. And don't get me wrong, we have some rivalries in the Big Eight, but it's not the same as what we had back when Arlington would play Poly, and we were in the Ivy League, and it was Arlington, Ramona, North, all of our local schools. And now that King's there, I think we could have a tremendous league in all sports. But unfortunately, over the years, divisions have changed, leagues have changed. So we have 5 schools in our district, and we're in 4 different leagues. It's crazy to me that we're not all together. That city, like I said, that city rivalry, man, packing the house with tons of people there, football games, and it's nice. But our league is nice, the Big Eight, but it's just not. At times, it's not the same. The kids you grew up playing travel ball with and little league with, and you go to elementary school and junior high with, and now you go to different schools and you want to compete against them, but you don't play because we're not in the same league.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, and you're talking about the small town Americana, where the west side of the city would play the east side, or north would play south, or you'd be playing against a city right next to you.
Yeah.
So UKIPA playing Redlands, those rivalries is what I cherish, because towns would come out for it.
Yeah.
And I think football has always had an advantage, and same thing with basketball, over most sports, in the fact that most of them play at night. It's very difficult for parents to get off for a 3:15 or a 3:30 game. And if you have a King, and then now you have to go to Norco. Norco plays with lights, and I think that's an advantage for them.
Yeah.
But to have them go all the way to Corona against the 91:15 traffic right now, you're leaving work at 2:30 to try to make that game. For most of us, it would be near impossible.
Yeah, for example, at King, we drive all out to Eastvale to play Roosevelt, and we literally pass North, Poly, Arlington, and Ramona on our way to Roosevelt. And don't get me wrong, it's great competition, but it'd be cool to bring something like that back that we had back in the day. But I don't know, enrollments have changed. Competitive balance is a big issue as far as other sports water polo and and soccer and stuff like that. So I get why King is still in the Big Eight and the other schools have kind of gone their ways, but it's not that big of a difference. You know what I mean? I use the analogy all the time, because King is the biggest school in the district, we got a little over 3,000 kids, and schools are smaller. That a lot of times people think the King is the modern day of Riverside, and we're not. We're just high school kids. We're a public school. We have more kids to draw from, but it's. We're not. It's not that big of a difference. You know what I mean? And I think it can work. And now with all the coronavirus and budget cuts, transportation is going to be a big issue for a lot of our schools. We could drive to Poly. We could drive to Ramona. We can take a bus to those schools, or parents can pick them up. It's going to help a lot financially. And
it means you have kids in the classroom longer.
Yeah, kids are in the classroom longer. They're going to get the education part. But the big thing is, just the rivalries in our area.
So the other question I would have right now during coronavirus is obviously CIF just came out with their 2 seasons, so everything's kind of stacked in January through June. How do you see that affecting you guys at King?
I don't think we're going to be affected too much. We have a couple of football guys, but that's obviously going to be in the fall now, so it doesn't really affect us all that much. We do have 2 basketball players that are really good varsity basketball players. I know that they're going to be able to play 2 sports at one time, and I've already contacted one of them, and I said, hey, I'm all in, man. Let's do both. Play basketball with baseball games being at 3:15 and the varsity basketball game being at 6 or 7. Technically, time-wise, it could work. The practice time is going to be difficult, obviously, but as long as that kid can kind of, balance it, I don't see why it wouldn't work. But
and be able to take the physical load.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because coming off of a football season, frankly, the physicality of football versus then going to basketball to get almost conditioned for baseball is very different than trying to stack it. And literally, your season ends.
Yeah.
You're beat up, and now trying to do 2 sports at the same time. I can see the physical load.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult. And then, I don't know. Hopefully it's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hectic 1 year. But looking at it, I'm just so glad that we can do something rather than just cancel everything. At least we're going to be able to play. At least the boys are going to be able to get after it. Our seniors are going to be able to have their senior year. It's going to be a little different, but it's better than nothing. Absolutely.
So how have you been working with your players right now? Because obviously, baseball season was cut.
Yeah.
Before it almost even started.
I haven't. We haven't done anything. We're not even allowed on campus. We can't practice. We can't do much of anything. So I just do text messages and just see how they're doing. I've told all of our boys, hey, if you're gonna play, and I know travel ball teams are going out to Arizona and playing. Just say, hey, if you have video, send it to me. I'll tweet it out. I'll do what I can to kind of promote it, because unfortunately I can't do anything as a team right now. So really, I'm kind of just embracing the travel ball for these boys now, and kind of helping them as much as I possibly can on the school side, even though we're not able to do very much on the field at all.
Now, are collegiate coaches still reaching out to you and trying to figure out their needs because collegiate baseball right now is going to have the deepest field I think I've ever going to be able to see, because you have seniors that now got an extra year. You only had 5 rounds of the MLB draft. So you've basically stacked both ends of Division I. So how does that look for your juniors and seniors, and what are you hearing from Division I coaches?
They're definitely out, man. They're out. They're not out. They can't physically go watch the games, but I've taken more phone calls in the last couple of weeks for our guys than I have in a long time, years. The coaches want video. Hey, can you send me a video of this kid, or can you have so and so call me, depending on their grade, because they can't make that initial contact. The coaches are doing their due diligence. They're out getting their stuff taken care of within their rules or within their parameters. So they're getting after it for sure. We just had a kid commit to Santa Barbara a couple of weeks ago. So you can go on unofficial visits with your family. The coaches can't meet with you, but man, he went and checked out the campus and did his own thing.
Gorgeous campus.
Yeah, and then through the whole travel ball stuff, he was able to be seen, get some video, and it worked out for him. So a lot of kids now, even though those coaches can't go out and recruit, they're still getting their job done.
So what technologies do you try to embrace at King and utilize? Because obviously baseball went from very analog to extremely digital in a very short window.
We don't. Man, I wish we could do more. I wish we had TrackMan. I wish we had all these other cool things. But really, we just have access to our phones. We do a ton of video that we can show the boys. We kind of just text it back and forth. We have a radar gun that we can hook up to our phones. You can get radar velocities. And then really, it's kind of just old school stuff, man. Charting pitches, getting our percentages as far as first pitch strikes, amount of breaking balls they're throwing. Pitch counts are huge, obviously, in the high school game. But I wish we could do more. You know what I mean? But right now, it's really just kind of, using our phones and taking advantage of that technology to help our boys.
Okay. Now, I was talking to Clint when he was on the program about, because obviously as a catcher, I was able, after my junior year, to start to call my own game. Is that something that you allow your catchers to do, or do you call all the pitches?
No, man, from day one, we've let our kids call their own game. I always had the mindset as a pitcher that there's only one person that knew what was working for me that day, and it was the catcher. Obviously, our coaches they're very, very smart, but our coach didn't know what was working because he wasn't catching it. You know what I mean? And we were able to I was able to talk to my catcher and be like, hey, this isn't working, and like you can shake off. So I never really liked when my coaches called games for me. So I never wanted to be the coach that forced kids to throw what I wanted to throw, because what works for me might not work for them. So we let our kids call their own game. We might call, in a certain situation, we might call pitches, maybe 20 pitches a year. But for the most part, it's all on our catchers. And we've been pretty lucky that we've had a really good group of catchers that we thought could handle it. So they call their own game. They come back in the dugout. We talk about it. Hey, what about this pitch next time in that situation? But our catchers call their own game.
That's excellent, because I believe that you actually are instilling more responsibility to the catcher, actually how you create a good catcher. Because there's a lot of receivers out there that are good at what they do, but they don't understand the intricacies of the game, and that's one of the reasons we both love baseball is the chess game.
Yeah,
you see that the batter backs up in the box a little bit, or that he's choked up a little bit more. That's a little bit harder to see from 120 feet away.
Yeah.
You know how it's breaking today. You can see the holes in each individual batter's swing, and if you just are always looking at the dugout, you're not looking at the batter.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like just those boys being able to do it, they learn so much, counts, and the boys could really get to know each other, because now they're on the same page, and now there's some camaraderie, there's some teamwork there. So like I said, we've always let our guys call their own game, but then, like I said, when they come into the dugout, we'll talk about it as a group, what pitches we want to see in certain situations. But when it's on the field, man, let's go. It's up to them.
Absolutely. And also, I think it also creates a faster game, which every umpire and every fan, I believe, sits there going, like, nobody wants to see you look over 7-5B purple.
Yeah.
7-5B purple.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So what would you, if I always ask this for the last question, if you could tell your parents, your players, your coaches, your community one thing right now during COVID, since we're all basically stuck at home, essentially, it's opening up a little bit and now we're closing it back down again.
Yeah.
What would that message be?
I think absolutely it's don't sit around and wait. You know what I mean? Like right now, the days of the home gym are bigger than ever. You still got to be able to do some stuff at home, whether it's, lifting at home, going to Big Five and buying some weights, running around the block, doing some sprint work, going to a local park and getting some work in. Because when it does open back up, we've got to hit the ground running. Like we don't have time to, we haven't been playing in 4 or 5 months. We've got to get ready to go because our season's going to happen so quickly. So I think right now, more than ever, like our kids got to be able to work on their own and really self-advocate for themselves and tell mom, hey, I need to go to the park and get some running in. Because it's so easy right now to say, you know what, I can't go outside. I'm just going to sit here and have a snack or, watch TV. But you're going to see it then. But when we do start going, you're going to be able to see the kids that got after it. And we're still able to get some work in even though we're shut down.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being on the program. And again, anyone that would like to be on the program, please reach out to us. Steve, thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Everyone else, stay safe. God bless.